So question 4. Circles C1 and C2 have equations x plus 5 squared and y minus 6 squared equal to 9, and x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 16 respectively. And we're asked to write down the centres and radii of C1 and C2. Okay, so question 4a. So C1 is actually quite straightforward. So we'll write out, we have x plus 5 all squared plus y minus 6 all squared equal to 9. Okay, so just by looking at this we should be able to figure it out. So we look at C1 and it's going to have a centre, well, here it's going to usually be the minus of that, so it's going to be minus 5 and 6, and the radius here is just r squared, so wherever the square root of that is going to be, so radius is going to be equal to 3 because that's the square root of 9. So that's our first part solved simply enough. Okay, so now on to C2. This one's slightly more involved, but still pretty straightforward. So again, we'll write out the equation: 6x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so what we're going to do here, well, if you can't remember, we can go back up to the equations for a circle, and they actually give us all this information here. So this is the general equation for a circle, and this is all the information we need to know. So we can look at this and say, well, 2g is equal to negative 6, so g is equal to negative 3, and 2f, I think I've not written that equation down properly, have I? Well, no, I have actually, sorry, and 2f is equal to 0, so f must be equal to 0. Okay, so then our centre, and then we know that our centre is equal to negative g and negative f, so centre must be 3, 0, because, you know, the negative of 0 is still 0. Okay, so now we want to try and figure out the radius. We use this equation here, equal to the square root of g squared plus f squared minus c. That's this equation here. I'm going to go back down to the question now. Okay, here we are, question 4. Okay, so we're just going to sub in the numbers, so that just becomes minus 3 all squared plus 0 minus 16 all square rooted. Okay, so what do you get? So 9 plus 16 is equal to root 25, which is just 5. So the radius is equal to 5. So now we know everything for C2. So C2 center is 3, 0, and radius is equal to 5. Okay, so the 4 marks, as you pretty straightforward, is you get 1 mark for that, 1 mark for that, 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for that. Okay, so now on to question B. We've got to show that these two centres do not intersect. Okay, so we'll take a new page to explain this. So prove that the circles do not intersect. Okay, well, when do they not intersect? Okay, I'm just going to draw a little sketch here. So two circles aren't going to intersect when their radiuses are smaller than the distance between them. So these two circles don't intersect, and because there R and this R are less than this distance between them. So something like R1 plus R2 is less than D. So that's what kind of we'll be looking to prove here. So we're trying to show that these two won't intersect. Okay, so first of all, we're going to need this distance D between the two centers, but we already have the two centers information, so we're going to need to set up the distance formula. So D C1 to C2 is going to be the distance formula that we've used before, which is x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And our centers are, from the previous question, they were 3, 0 and minus 5, 6. So minus 5, 6 and 3, 0. Okay, so I always like to put this in x1, y1, x2, y2. So just plug these numbers in. So this is going to become 3 plus 5 all squared plus 0 minus 5, so plus 5 again, or sorry, minus 6. No, sorry. 0 minus 6 all squared. So this then becomes equals 3 plus 5 is 8, squared is 64, then 6 squared is 36, so that equals 36, 6 goes, that's 70, 100, that's nice and easy, is equal to 10. So the distance between the centers is 10. Okay, and we know from the previous question that R1 was equal to 3 and R2 was equal to 5, and we know that distance from C1 to C2 is equal to 10. Okay, so we're going to add these together. So R1 plus R2 is equal to 8. Right, so here we can make a statement which will someone say, so something along the lines that C1 and C2 will not intersect as R1 plus R2 is less than D, or something along the lines of since 10 is greater than 8. This should be enough to get along the marks. Basically, you want to have something along the lines of interpret the significance of the calculations and determine the sum of the two radii and the distance between the three. So the 3 marks are from calculating the distance between the two centers, calculating the sum of the radii, and then showing that the significance of these two things, and therefore they won't intersect. So there are your 3 marks there.